blatant corruption by the Trump administration and specifically by Donald Trump Jr. Financial Times reported in December that 1789 Capital, a venture capital firm founded by pro-Trump donors in 2023 that brought Trump Jr. in as a partner in 2024, in which Trump Jr. has held a $4 million stake, received a contract from the U.S. Army to manufacture 3,500 drone motors.
You could help build the only independent news outlet, always on the ground with the people, for as low as 16 cents a day.
Corporate media, they've been lying to us for years, and you're going straight to the people.
Flint, Michigan.
Brooklyn, New York.
Government sending one more you to the residents of Chicago.
We need as many independent voices as possible, and that's why what you guys do is so important.
Covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hey, it's JT Cestkowski with Status Coup. Republicans in Congress are moving to cover up what could be some pretty blatant corruption by the Trump administration and specifically by Donald Trump Jr., the president's son. Let's get into it. This is reporting coming from Common Dreams. They go with the headline, Oligarchy on Full Display. GOP lawmakers block effort to subpoena Donald Trump Jr. over suspicious Pentagon loan. A Democratic member of the U.S. House is calling out her Republican colleagues after they thwarted her attempt to subpoena Donald Trump Jr. to answer questions related to his financial stake in a company that scored a suspiciously timed $620 million loan from the U.S. Department of Defense last year. Representative Maxine Dexter, the Democrat of Oregon, on Wednesday tried to force the House Natural Resources Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee to vote on subpoenaing Donald Trump Jr. to testify about his venture capital firm's investment in Vulcan Elements, a startup that specializes in producing rare earth magnets used in drones, radars, and other pieces of military equipment. I almost don't need to finish the rest of this article, right? You know how this story goes. Donald Trump Jr. invests in a company. All of a sudden, that company gets access to the exact loans that it needs to grow its business, and the investment world goes crazy and starts buying up shares. Value goes through the roof. You've seen this story play out. And isn't that fucking sad that you know already how this story goes before I even get to recording it? With this kind of corruption, it is so blatant and in your face that there is no conspiracy behind it. You know it's happening. I know it's happening. It's happening. And so these videos is like, oh, of course, these kinds of stories, of course they're happening. According to CNBC, Representative Paul Gosar, Republican of Arizona, the subcommittee chairman, moved the committee into an hour-long recess immediately after Dexter motioned to subpoena the president's eldest son. After returning from the recess, Republicans on the subcommittee voted to table the resolution. Dexter, however, vowed that this wasn't the end of the story. Quote, "If there is nothing to hide," she said, then why won't Donald Trump Jr. explain to this committee why just months after becoming a partner, his firm's financial stake grew substantially following the single largest loan ever issued by the Pentagon's Office of Strategic Capital? This is the oligarchy on full display, and I'm committed to ending corruption. A noble goal, ending corruption. But then you have to also look at the corruption that is committed on the Democratic side. And you have to be willing to investigate that as well, because if there is no bipartisan accountability, if this remains a partisan issue, just whatever presidency is in power is the one that, like if a Republican is in power and suddenly Democrats care about corruption, and then when a Democrat is in power, it's just Republicans that care about corruption, this issue will never get fixed. Just like every other partisan issue in this country, it is just there to drive your outrage and to try and earn your vote and get a few people in the middle or on the fence every election cycle to flip back over to the opposition party and support them that cycle. That's all this issue will ever be if there is not true bipartisan accountability. What am I referencing? I'm referencing Hunter Biden being on the board of a Ukrainian energy company.
It was also important to point out the stuff about China and Hunter Biden. We've literally, Glenn, we've never had a presidential candidate that's more likely compromised, more likely paid off by foreign entities. And when Joe Biden says, well, it's not in my tax returns, yeah, there's plenty of ways. Hunter's holding it for you. Let's see Hunter's tax returns.
Did Republicans use that as, we have to take off our red and blue hats here, Did Republicans use that as a partisan cudgel against the Biden administration? Hell yes, they did. But is it corruption? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And if we can't break outside of the just partisan team sports in this country, this kind of corruption will continue to happen. Because what Hunter Biden did, probably not illegal, also not right? Not morally correct, I think, by anybody's. That he profited off of the fact that his dad was the vice president of the United States and under Barack Obama, and he got that energy position. His dad later went on to become president, and those business dealings all got scrutiny. But of course they should. The president's family should not be immune to investigation if they have business dealings and they are directly profiting off of the administration, just like Donald Trump Jr. is doing right now off of his daddy's presidency. That is the bipartisan, or actually, I think we should probably say non-partisan look that we should be taking at this issue. The Financial Times reported in December that 1789 Capital, a venture capital firm founded by pro-Trump donors in 2023 that brought Trump Jr. in as a partner in 2024, bought an equity stake in Vulcan Elements months before it was awarded the $620 million loan by the Pentagon. Revelations about the Vulcan Elements contract came just weeks after the Florida-based drone startup Unusual Machines, in which Trump Jr. has held a $4 million stake, received a contract from the U.S. Army to manufacture 3,500 drone motors. Don't worry, I am sure that investment, those contracts, all of that was purely driven just by the actual business underlying fundamentals here of this story, right? There is not anything else at play. It has nothing to do with the president's son either got tipped off that this company would likely be one that's getting a government contract from his daddy's cronies in the administration, and so he became an investor, or his daddy's cronies saw fit to award the contract to a company that was invested by Donald Trump Jr. I'm sure that could not be the case, correct? Because that would be wrong. And we're the greatest country in the world. But of course, the corruption does not end there. This is a story from The Independent. The Trump administration is putting millions into a minerals company backed by the president's son. A startup focused on building rare earth magnets used in key technologies has seen its valuation skyrocket thanks to two investors, the Trump administration and a venture capital firm that counts the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., as a partner. Vulcan Elements, which aims to shore up U.S. access to key materials for high technology, has gone from a $200 million valuation to a potential $2 billion one, according to a Bloomberg analysis. That is a 10x growth. That is a 10x growth. $200 million to $2 billion. Billion is already a number that I think most people, myself included in that, by the way, cannot begin to wrap our minds around how massive that is. We would struggle as people to actually spend that amount of money on anything, regardless of how wasteful. But the president's son gets to invest in companies that regularly become billion-dollar valuations. Why? Might have something to do with the fact that his father is in a position of power. All right, returning here to the reporting. Over the summer, 1789 Capital, which Trump Jr. joined shortly after his father was elected, joined a group of investors backing the firm, which hopes to help the U.S. develop mineral processing capacity that's largely in the hands of China. The Trump administration, which watched as rare earth minerals became a bargaining chip in tariff negotiations with Beijing, soon followed, offering the company a record-breaking $620 million Defense Department loan, as well as $50 million in CHIPS Act incentives, securing the Commerce Department an equity stake in the company. So don't worry, Trump Jr., if you were at all concerned about your company running out of capital, well, the U.S. government has your back. It's important that the government help the little guy like Donald Trump Jr. By the way, where is all of the outrage from right-wing media about this blatant corruption? My God, did they shout it from the rooftops about Hunter Biden and all of his corruption? And don't get me wrong, that was corruption. But where are they on this story? Crickets. Why? Because they're all grifters on the right. It's all about serving partisan interests and their millionaire and billionaire benefactors. Most of them are actually millionaires funded by billionaires. Trump Jr. and his brother Eric, meanwhile, are also backing a drone company angling for Trump Jr. and his brother Eric, meanwhile, are also backing a drone company angling for military business as the Pentagon seeks to build up drone capabilities in the face of an onslaught of UAV attacks in the Iran war. Well, isn't that great? Donald Trump Jr., you invested in a company that makes parts of murder robots, and your murder robots are likely going to have one hell of a market, considered that we are now embroiled in another forever war for oil in the Middle East. I wonder if you maybe would have said something to your father, or if you're going to, about the importance of drone technology for the military. Wouldn't it, protect our troops if we just invested in more murder robots? Then our troops wouldn't have to be on the front lines engaging in this kind of dangerous work that's endangering their lives. And coincidentally, it'll make me a lot of money in the process. So don't try to end this war. No. Continue to try and ramp up and just employ more murder robots is really what I'm trying to say. I don't know if that's a conversation that happened. Nobody does, because there is absolutely no accountability or transparency around any of this. Family members of Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick are also under scrutiny for their involvement in Cantor Fitzgerald, the secretary's former investment company. The Trump official transferred his stake in the business to his children through a series of trusts, and his sons now manage Cantor Fitzgerald. In January, the Trump administration announced it had agreed to extend up to $277 million in funding and up to $1.3 billion in loans to USA Rare Earth Inc., a mining and manufacturing company that turned to Cantor Fitzgerald as the lead placement agent for a series of private investments. So Donald Trump Jr. is not alone in benefiting from the nepotism and corruption from inside the Trump administration. Cabinet secretaries are getting on it too. And this is the kind of permissive culture that we have cultivated here in the United States because we do not have the necessary amount of outrage or, willingness to hold elected officials accountable at the ballot box for failing to stand up against this kind of corruption. We are going to continue to report on this kind of corruption here at Status Coup. If you want to be a part of our accountability journalism project and actually building independent media in this country that isn't beholden to millionaire and billionaire wealthy benefactors, please go to statuscoup.com/join. For as low as $5 a month, you go to keep us truly editorially and independent and beholden only to you, our audience.